Good evening, everyone. This is the 13th of our show and tell series, which revisits notable York Theatre Company productions and the people who made them happen. I'm Jim Morgan. I'm the producing artistic director, and I've been around for a while here. We have celebrated shows in the series such as Desperate Measures, Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, Enter Laughing, Lost in the Stars, and Anyone Can Whistle. You can find all of these on our Facebook page. The pandemic tried to put a damper on York's 50th anniversary celebration, but we decided not to let that happen. Tuesday, September 29th, we will revisit our two musical and mufti productions, Hallelujah Baby by Betty Comden, Adolph Green, Arthur Lawrence, and Julie Stein. Various standalone events are sprinkled throughout the fall, such as a new Taste of York, our ongoing musical theater training program presentations, another York trivia night, and a special presidential election edition of Josh Ellis and Peter Felicia's Philly, Boston, or Baltimore. One very special evening that has moved from its original spring dates is the New York premiere of Nancy Ford and Mimi Turk's Blue Roses, a stunning adaptation of Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie, which York has shepherded since its beginning. The highlight of the fall season, however, is a brand new effort, Broadway's Great American Songbook, a cabaret series hosted by Michael Feinstein, which will feature weekly performances from such incredible talents as Ben Vereen, Lilias White, Bobby Creighton, Karen Mason, Alton Fitzgerald White, George Abood, and Leroy Reams. It is co-produced for us by Ricky Kane Larimer and directed by Barry Kleinborn. Please remember that your donations are essential in keeping our pandemic programming going. We love not charging for these events. Also, please keep in mind that throughout the program, you can type questions or comments into the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, and we will do our best to answer them when we find time. I said this series is made up of significant shows from our past. Tonight, we revisit Merrily We Roll Along by Stephen Sondheim and George Furth from our 1994 season. A landmark production in all sorts of ways for us, and we have many of the people who made it happen here so brilliantly with us tonight. But first, I'd like you to meet my co-host, Charles Wright, our resident theater historian, who is writing a book about the first 50 years of York, and also happens to be the co-president of the Drama Desk. Charles?
Sorry, I'm the first mic disaster of the evening. So I'm off mute, and I'm really excited to revisit this landmark in the history of the York Theatre. Merrily We Roll Along premiered on Broadway in the 1981-82 season, and the York production 13 years later was the show's first New York City revival. It was the York's 8th Sondheim revival. The production was part of the 25th anniversary season of the company, and revised by the authors, it received stellar reviews and became the hottest ticket in town. Writing the New York Post, Clive Barnes proclaimed, "The York Theatre has given Stephen Sondheim's 13-year-old musical such a galvanic shock that it is reborn." Susan Schulman and Malcolm Getz received Obie Awards, and Wendell K. Harrington received an Obie for sustained excellence in projection that year. Malcolm Getz and the production were nominated for Drama Desk Awards, and the Varese Sarabande cast recording was the first of the York's now more than 40 cast recordings. So Jim, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Charles. Well, why don't we check in with everyone we have with us tonight. We're those of you on the panel who haven't experienced one of these before, we keep it very casual, and as you can tell by my fumfering around right now. Why don't we start with our director, Susan Schulman. If everyone would give a little bit of an idea of where you are, what you've been up to in these strange times, and a memory or two about the show. And then we'll come back and revisit everyone along the way. And you're welcome to jump in at the appropriate moment. Again, it's very informal, very casual. And Susan?
Okay, well, I'm Susan Schulman, and I had the privilege of directing this beautiful and very meaningful musical with a brilliant cast, and I mean that seriously from my heart. We also had the great good fortune of having George and Steve actually there. They were actually there during rehearsals, and I had the privilege of spending some time working with them on the revised script. And as I like to say, George was there to tell me everything that I did wrong, and Steve was there to tell me everything I did right. So they made a great combination. It's a great combination. It was really thrilling to have them there because the show, I think all of us felt a deep connection to it. And I think that George and Steve really wanted this to work. They really put a lot of time and effort into the script, which is now the published script, the licensed script. And one of the things that I remember Steve said to me after our first preview, I don't know why this happened, actually. I went backstage. It was a very positive first preview, went really well. And I went backstage and he was standing at the door between the lobby and the backstage. And I looked at him and I burst into tears, absolutely sobbing tears. And Steve was like, oh dear, okay, why are you crying? It went really, really well. I went, I know, but, and he said, you know what, this show just does that to people. It does that to young people. And we were young. And it was such a, what the show had to say was so meaningful to all of us young theater artists at the time, about not giving up on your dreams, about being loyal, things that are so hard to hang on to once your career starts going, not forget people who you started out with, and you know, and not to break promises too, what that means when you start breaking promises in your life. Anyway, that was one of my, I don't know, this is a fond memory, but it's a definite memory. So yeah, that's me for now.
That's wonderful, Susan. Thank you very much. Michael Rafter, the music director, is with us. Michael, where are you talking to us from? Susan, where are you talking to us from?
I'm from New York. I'm right here in my apartment where I've been banished.
And
Michael?
I am in Muncie, Indiana at Ball State University. I took on a tenure track teaching position a year ago. Last August. They've been great working with my schedule. I teach Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Last year, when concerts were happening, I would do weekend concerts with Sutton Foster, Laura Benanti. But they're also willing to work in the future as far as I have a couple Broadway shows in the pipeline. So it's an amazing gig. My favorite memory of it, we'll get into the recording and all of that and the insanity of getting that ready.
Recording was insane, yeah.
It was insane. I would say the cast was just incredible, but the dedication of the cast, and correct me if I'm wrong, but before every show, we did a warm-up. And we ran, and I believe it was the opening, wasn't it, every night? We did a warm-up, and then I believe we finished with running the opening.
Opening doors.
Okay. And it was just an amazing cast that would come, you know, get there early, do a warm-up. It was just an incredible time. It really was.
Thank you. We'll get back to all sorts of other stories later, like the recording. Joe DeMichael is with us, who was the production manager for the show, and all sorts of inside stories, only some of which can be publicly told.
Well, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I came to York the season before and stage managed the production of Carnival, and they asked me to stay on for this anniversary season. So I was the production manager for York on all the shows of that season, and then stayed on another 4 or 5 years or so as the managing director. And right now, I left York to go to Actors Equity Association, and I've been the controller at Actors Equity Association for the last 20 years or so. So I still see all of your names and faces and all of the time, but it's really great to see everybody again. Yeah, the recording is interesting. I have another story about another recording that happened in the back of the theater early on in the production that maybe we'll get to later on.
That tale.
Are you going to, can you say anything? No. Okay, we'll move on.
Well, one of my untolds, Jim.
What?
One of my untolds, I guess.
Yes, for your book.
Mm.
Yes. Where are you talking to us from?
I'm at home in Sleepy Hollow, New York, just north of the city.
Uh-huh. Okie dokie. Well, I'm just going to go randomly through the Hollywood Squares boxes and choose people. So if you don't want to talk, you don't have to. Michelle Park.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, and if everyone would tell who they played,
Oh,
just
okay.
to help our audience along.
Yeah, give me prompts. I played Gussie. And if I remember correctly, and Michael and Susan, you guys probably know better than I do, like a lot of the material for Gussie was new, right? They had done it in London. So some of those reprises and all that stuff, is that right? Shake your head.
Yeah, there was new stuff for her.
Yeah, right. So, I remember, all of us, do you remember what that was like when Steve was in the audience every night? Like you would gauge your performance on whether he was falling out of the aisle or not, got falling. You were like, okay, I did something right.
I think he was one of our best cheerleaders, though.
Oh my gosh, it was, and he used to come backstage every night. He would he did. He was always, though. He's smart, super smart and generous.
George would tell me, forgive me, George would tell me that I betrayed him occasionally. God rest his soul. And I would go, George, if I betrayed you, you would actually know that. This is not called a betrayal. This is called a difference of opinion.
Do you remember, does anybody else remember this, that they gave us for opening night, that Steve and George gave us all pictures of themselves? It was a picture of the two of them.
Yes!
And on the picture, they wrote, "You're our favorite."
The best one of the show.
Everyone, yes, the best one of the show. And of course, you thought, this was so personal that you did it. So it wasn't until way toward the end of the run that we all were like, what did he say on yours? And he said the same thing on everything. Pretty great.
We may actually have one of those in our arsenal of photographs that we'll show in a while. Who's up for Philip Hoffman?
There, I've unmuted. Hi, here's my signed poster.
Oh, yes.
I'm Philip Hoffman, and I played Jerome, the lawyer. And I was listening. I'm in Washington Heights, where I live now, way uptown. I was listening to the album today, and first of all, everybody sounds great, and I don't think I ever sounded better. So I need to thank Susan and Michael for giving me that stuff to sing, because I listened to it today and I couldn't believe how good it sounded. Y'all were awesome. It was really a thrill to listen again. It's amazing. The band was great. You did great. Where's Michael? There you are. Just awesome. Anyway, now my son has done the production in a summer intensive. My son, God help him, musical theater major, Syracuse University. Dear God. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah. So people love this. People say to me, "Oh, that album that you did, that's our version. That's the one we grew up with, not the original or anything else." It's kind of amazing. It's really amazing. Anyway.
It is. It is. And that album did a lot for us as a company, getting our name out there and beginning our whole thing about doing recordings and stuff like that. Christine Toy Johnson.
Hi.
Welcome.
I played KT, the reporter. And Philip, I didn't know you were in Washington Heights. I am also in Washington Heights. I am on what they're calling an extended intermission. Very, very extended intermission from the first national tour of Come From Away. So that's what I was doing in March. And one of my favorite memories, it still makes me laugh. I think some of you might remember this, and we were on the stage at the same time. There were 2 levels to the set. There was an upper level. I don't remember what that represented, but during one performance, Danny Burstein was moving a plant and he accidentally dropped it and it landed on Adrienne Lennox's head. She wasn't hurt, but she gave it a full monologue of attitude, the plant. So that's one of my favorite memories.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a picture of the set we'll see later. I'd kind of forgotten it, actually. Was the plant heavy?
Well, no one was hurt. So she was not hurt. It was just, okay. I think it probably was light, and that's why he dropped it accidentally. But it was just one of those moments that you can't recreate ever.
Yeah.
Or you probably should, right?
Who's next? Ann Bobby.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Oh my God. Hello. I love you guys so much. I'm so happy to see you all. Yes, I played Beth. So when you get to sing one of the most iconic songs from an iconic musical, it was so stressful. Every time I went to go to sing the song, I kind of felt half the audience sort of went, okay, what are you going to show us? It was so challenging, but I have to say, working with this cast and with Steve and with George, who I had worked with before on Precious Sons on Broadway. I miss him so much, and I so feel like I want to honor him every time we talk about Merrily, because George was truly so much a part of this machinery that became this musical. I don't know about you guys, but doing the show at the York, I actually felt, and maybe all of you guys were so much better trained vocally than I was, but I felt like my rib cage expanded so much doing this show. My diaphragm had expanded so much. So many of my clothes didn't even fit me after doing this show, having learned how to sing. Thank you, Michael Rafter. Screw you, Michael Rafter. But we all learned how to really become like opera singers doing this show. Am I mistaken with this?
It's pretty amazing musically. I mean, as I said, listening to the album again after all this time, I'm amazed at what we did. Michael Rafter, thank you. I mean, really sounded awesome. So you're right. You're right.
Yeah. It's also sort of nonstop singing. You know, the show is got a lot of music in it. So, and it's very emotional music.
And today, when I heard the word transitions, I It's like,
Transitions, right.
which one is which? Oh, anyway, back to Anne.
I don't know what much more to say, except that truly I became a more serious singer than I had ever been. Just doing this production, I felt like I was training like an opera singer. And quite frankly, even my body indicated that I was becoming a serious singer in ways that I had never been.
Wow.
Is me.
Oh, that's amazing. Adam Heller.
Hey, nice to see you.
Hey,
Hi, everybody. God, such a
Adam!
sweet thing.
hey.
So, Beth and I, our lease in New York City ended in August, and we thought, given the circumstances, that we would take the opportunity to cast our net, and so we are now living in a beautiful coastal Hudson. Rockland County, Hudson River Village. And so we've been for the last 3.5 weeks sort of settling in. And, you know, on a good day, I'm grateful for the perspective and the new perspective that this COVID thing has brought to us in our, you know, lockdown. And on other days, you know, I feel like a character from Follies, you know. And I just feel like, where are we? What is our purpose? And, you know, hope that, you know, we get back. I played Charlie Kringus. And it was, you know, simply one of the most magical times of collaboration that I can recall. You know, like many of us, Stephen Sondheim's shows and George's shows were incredibly meaningful to our development, and this one particularly was, I think, a story we all felt very qualified to tell, and I was just incredibly grateful. I remember the audition for Susan. I remember, this may or may not be true, but that there were 2 ways that you were considering going, either with a slightly older cast or a slightly younger cast. Is that false?
Yes, it's false.
So there you go.
And there you have it.
We had decided that we were going to go right in the middle. I really wanted people in their late 20s, et cetera. So they were sort of right in the center of the age.
I remember I was wearing a long sweater at the audition, and you said,
I beg your pardon, what'd you say?
I remember I was wearing a long sweater, a cardigan, I guess, at the audition, and you asked me to take it off.
Oh dear.
You wanted to see the contours of my body.
I did. You were way
I
too
was happy to share. Listen, one of the greatest times and really unique moments in the process of putting it together was Steve Sondheim's request that he meet with each of us who had a song, so that he could sort of masterclass us through our tune. So I sang Franklin Shepherd Inc. for him, sort of in one of the side rooms at the York, and we just sort of went beat by beat through that tune, and you know how dense it is, and it gave me the opportunity and really the revelation that he's a very good actor, because he demonstrated some of the tune for me with imagery that, you know, he was interested in making sure I nailed. And I just sort of remember that his talent, his storytelling talent. So if this songwriting thing hadn't worked out, I think there might have been something for him at Actors Equity. But
I remember that. I remember being there and how incredible that was for him. But you know, something about Steve that I always have to tell people is that he's an incredibly generous collaborator. He actually asked my permission to do that. And I said, sure, of course you could do that. But he was very aware of not overstepping because he was there, and making sure that that everybody understood that everything was being done. He was very, very solicitous of the director, and to very respectful.
I remember that there would be occasion after the show where it wouldn't have been, to my sensibility, inappropriate for him to say something, a note or something. But he was he was very deferent to you, because he felt that that was really, as you would say, overstepping his place, and that he wanted all of those kinds of notes to be only given through you. So I'm sure he filled you with his opinions, but it was rare that he would share directly with us what his feelings were.
He always felt that that was verboten, that was not a writer's job to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It actually reminds me that, none of us would be here if it wasn't for Jay Binder, who cast this amazing ensemble.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
He was magical. He did something extraordinary. He looked at the project and really worked magic. His name should not be forgotten.
It is not, believe me. Yes, an amazing contribution to the production. Why don't we take a minute and look at some photographs which may trigger some more memories, and we'll continue on. Alana, or is it Austin who's doing it? I forget. We have a new team tonight. Whoever's doing the photographs, can we just start at the top and see a few?
Oh, James
There's Jim
Hidman is here.
Hindman.
Jamie Hidman is here.
Mary Klein. Wow.
Oh, here we go.
That's
Oh,
the
wait.
Photograph that we got. Yep.
the best one on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Now, did we miss one? Okay.
Oh.
But some of these are from Joe DeMichael, so I guess, Joe, you didn't get one saying you're the best in the cast. Is
I
that
sent that one.
Oh, look at that.
Look at you. Look at you, babies.
Wow.
I have my best in the cast hanging in my closet.
It's a very wrinkled
New York Times.
New York Times, gigantic coverage in the New York Times. The opening doors moment with the doors open. Next. Now, who can identify everyone?
Oh.
There's Ron.
Nancy Johnston.
Danny on the bottom right.
Oh, Nancy
Yeah.
Johnston.
Justin replaced me when I left.
Yeah.
Who's behind it? Adam?
I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's Ron Butler.
That's Ron Butler.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
Ron.
Yes.
On his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
On his shoulder.
Yeah, who's on the
I don't know
shoulder?
who's on his shoulder.
Shelley.
It looks like Phil Hall, but I mean, Phil, not Phil Hall.
Shelley, right?
Who is that?
Shelley.
Yes, Shelley Dickinson.
Yeah, it is Phil Hall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Phil Hall.
Danny.
Wow.
Okay, next. Oh, this is,
Susan?
these are some shots that Sally Jules, whom you'll be remembered, you'll be reconnected to momentarily, supplied. That's Janet Hayes Walker.
Oh,
talking
yes.
in the lobby.
Oh,
And
Janet.
I'm pretty sure that's John Newton behind her, though.
I think that's Perry.
You
Perry
think that's
Klein.
scary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Maybe. It was obviously a serious moment. Did Janet have the idea of doing this, Susan? Did you come to her? Did she come to you?
No, she came to me. She actually came to me after I had had a disastrous,
Oh my God.
a very disastrous situation in theater, and she gave me this gift of Merrily. And I remember I was thrilled and panicked because I had to call Steve and talk to him about it. And I was feeling very low and unloved generally. And when I called him and he said, "How you doing?" And I went, "Oh God, I don't know. You know, this just happened and it was really horrific." And he said to me, "Do you have an old lipstick tube somewhere?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Go write on your mirror that you're well out of it. Say, 'You're well out of it, baby.' And then tomorrow morning when you wake up and look at it, you'll see that because that's what I'm telling you." And it was true. And then Merrily, I leapt into Merrily with a full heart and was sort of reborn with this production.
That's a wonderful
Wow.
memory. And
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that. Next photograph, please. Oh, Mary Jo Donlinger, our lighting designer, and Joe DeMichael.
Yeah, much younger me.
Yes, we were all younger then. Mary Jo is now my sister-in-law for 15 years or something like that. Moving on.
Oh.
Now this is some of the same group. Rick is joined.
I'm in there, Ronnie. Who's in front of me in this photo? That her name always leaves me.
Nancy Johnston, is it?
Yeah, it's Nancy
Yeah.
Johnston.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, next.
So young.
Oh.
Yes, thank you for catching the back of my head. Well, not much has changed. Not much has changed.
But nice shirt.
Yeah. I still have it.
Oh.
We're adorable.
Yeah. Next. Oh, this is the flyer that was sent out announcing the whole thing. Got a lot of attention. Next. Now, Sally Jules, who was my assistant on this, you will meet shortly. I didn't have a photo. Well, I may somewhere, but first of all, we're still locked out of the theater. So a lot of our archival stuff is not available to us. But Sally had this photograph of the model. And I had kind of forgotten it. I remembered it in principle, but anyway, thank you, Sally, for making this available to us.
Yeah, it was very much a projection surface as well, Jim, right? You designed it as such because we knew we were going to use projections, yeah.
Yeah, it was worked out in conjunction with Wendell to serve her purposes.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to try and make it, make the space look bigger than it actually was. Do you remember, Susan? I think the first time you came in and looked at it, you said, "But can we lower the deck?" And we had only been in there a couple of years, and we took a foot off the height of the stage, and it's remained that height ever since because it was just such a smart move.
I feel like it was one of the first shows to use projections the way it did, right? And Wendell asked us for photographs of ourselves as children so that they could be shown as, you know, as time was changing. Yeah.
And Wendell had just come off of Tommy, right? That was her big hit then.
Came off what? I didn't hear that.
Who's Tommy on Broadway, right? That was happened just before this, yeah.
Well, as Charles mentioned, this same year she got an Obie for sustained excellence, which just speaks to her whole career at that time, 26 years ago, and now look.
Doesn't
shall we move on?
on stage left. Oh, wait, go back 1 second.
Oh, go back.
Didn't a piano pull out of the set on stage
Yes.
left? Yes,
It
you can't
did.
play in this, right?
Good for you. Good
Yes.
for you.
I didn't remember that until this second.
And there were, and also,
I played it.
and also we had to stash ourselves back there because there wasn't a wing there. So I remember during Not a Day Goes By, a bunch of us were in that space.
Yes.
And like this.
You know, that stage is a real trickster. There are so many sweet spots in that tiny little space. Am I wrong?
No, it's a great space. I always enjoyed working there. Yeah, it is small and it's challenging, but the proportions kind of work.
But there are sweet spots. I remember years later when I was doing Regina there, I moved to specific spaces on that stage to project and hit notes because I remembered from Merrily where the sweet spots are in that space.
Ah,
Funny.
you can sell that knowledge to people.
Right. Now, do you have any?
Directors and actors.
I remember there was no crossover.
Right.
We were on stage left, and we
Oh,
get
that's
stuck
right.
there. I remember Danny and myself, and I think somebody else, we were stuck there for a 20-minute segment during the show. And God help us if somebody had a joke that we'd start laughing at. And, you know, it was like laughing in church. You're not supposed to, and there's some serious thing going on stage. And yeah, I remember those.
And the orchestra was
I
stuck.
think it was the three of us.
Yes, was it? Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
making each other laugh. Yeah.
The orchestra was tucked in the upright corner
Right.
on 2 levels.
The,
I was thinking it. For years I've said yes, it was a 7-piece orchestra on 2 levels, and Joe said no, you're wrong. It was 4. But that's probably why there was no crossover, because we were using the crossover to store the orchestra, or
Yeah.
that's the wrong word. But anyway, shall we move ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is Sally had this in her collection, which I'd completely forgotten. It's a prop book cover of Mary Flynn's novel, the Spanish language edition.
Of contradiction. Yep.
Yes. And anyway, something else I'd forgotten that.
But go back to the slide before this one, because I think it's a note from Steve. If I recognize.
Oh yeah, I think we're going to that next. It skipped
okay.
ahead. Yeah, the opening night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the opening night invitation. Susan, do you want to?
I can't read it from my
Oh,
screen.
it says opening night party, his address after the show, June 8th. Due to limited space, I would appreciate your not bringing a guest unless it's a truly significant other, as Jerome would say. Otherwise, the party will turn into a nightmare version of the Blob.
Do you remember how that happened, Jim? How the party ended up at his place?
No.
One night, he just casually said, "So where's the opening night party?" And I jokingly said, "At your place." And he took me dead seriously and went, "Oh no, nobody told me that." I said, "Janet didn't tell you?" Again, straight face. "Janet didn't tell you?" He went, "No." Oh my goodness, I've got to start planning it. Then I felt so badly. And I said, no, I'm only teasing you. But he said, no, it's going to be at my place. And that was great. And it was.
Susan, you are my new favorite person on the planet.
I
love that that's how that happened.
Yeah, that was a huge honor. And then to have him
What
there
is it?
take us through the house and tell us stories about Katharine Hepburn across the way in the yard and seeing her, it was just amazing, really amazing.
I remember him taking me out into the backyard and showing me the tree that is in E.B. White's This Is New York.
Yes.
And thinking, wow, man, This is awesome.
Yeah.
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 Hey, Malcolm. Let's hear from Franklin Shepherd.
Yes. Yes. We can. They're just. Yeah.
Ah, the
That
baby
was the
picture.
top of the show, right? Hello, everybody. I'm in Gainesville, Florida, which is my hometown, which Jim knows quite well. I've been teaching down here for 3 years on a 3-year contract, and still they let me go do Netflix and stuff like that. And I'm doing a movie in November. And I have to say, this is absolutely one of the highlights of my life, this production, this show. I love you all. It's amazing to see you all. And I have a lot of cheeky memories, but the one that's coming to me is more meaningful one, which was the day we did the run through for Steve. And he'd had a say in casting, and then he was I think he was writing Passion or about then. And he stayed away. And then one day you said, we're going to do a run through in the morning for Steve. And I slept 8 hours, which surprised me. And we were down across from the public in that long railroad rehearsal hall. And,
Yes.
And it was just Susan and Steve and then the cast. And we started the opening number, and I came in last. And as everybody was singing the opening number, I was sitting there looking at him, and I thought, I'm so calm. I'm completely calm. I'm completely calm. And I stood up to sing my first notes, and I felt my knees buckle. I almost like fell over. But then he started to laugh so hard at Michelle and I in that Virginia Woolf opening scene, like all those horrible things. And he was like, ha, 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 ha. And at first I was stunned, but then I realized he was on board with it. And those 2.5 hours, as great as the run of the show was, that 2.5 hours was like some of the happiest time of my life. Like when I sat down to play Good Thing Going with Adam, I actually looked at the piano for a minute, and I thought, what is this? Like I had the same sort of moment of like, is this a mushroom? And then I started to play, and as Adam was singing, I thought, God, I've waited my whole life for this moment. And he was very kind to all of us, and he was very kind to me that day. And that was my crying jag. I called my mom later that afternoon. I said, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, it's all good. I said, it's all good. I had my moments, so. But I can't wait to talk about the album, because I got arrested the week that we made the album, but we'll come back to
Oh, the album was hilarious. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that very shortly when we've gotten through everyone. Amy Ryder.
Hi.
Amy, hi.
Michelle, I'm in the same kitchen, only it's been remodeled. So
Are
I'm in
you serious?
I'm in the same house. And Bobby, I'm in the same house, only we gutted it like crazy.
Oh my God.
There, you're looking at that bunny back there, so you don't see the toaster oven. I'm in Los Angeles on the Corona coaster here, and just enjoying the fact that we did do the remodel, so we can enjoy it. And I was so thrilled to do the show. I was so thrilled to do the show that I gave notice in the Broadway show that I was in before it opened, and left it to do this show for $185 a week. And it was worth every penny. Absolutely every penny. It was just, I don't know. It was from the opening to the closing, and all of the moments in between, and everybody it was the most heartfelt thing I think I've ever been a part of, from everybody's point of view. And that's all.
That's wonderful. Rick Chrome.
Hi there.
Hello.
Well, hello from beautiful Jersey City.
Yeah.
So good to see all of you. I was as I'm thinking back, I was really over my head when I was with all of you. You were so professional, and I was an obnoxious comedian with an okay voice. And I just learned so much from all of you while we were doing it, and working with Mr. Sondheim and Mr. Furth. It was. I'm still actually overwhelmed that we did it, and I'm seeing all of you. I'm like, yes, we did that, and it was a long time ago, and it was so much. It was so much work. I remember it being work. Those transitions you mentioned, Michael. You mentioned the transition, and I remember saying, "Well, it's exactly the same except for one note. Why does it have to be one note different? I can't remember it." And Susan said to me, "That's because of Stephen Sondheim." I went, "Oh, okay." that made sense. But it was so intricate, and I learned so much. And then the musical things with all of the MIDI, the synthesizers, and all of that. That was new technology at that point. It was just fascinating. And as I told you, I remember one of the stories I remember is Danny Burstein. In addition to us trying not to laugh when we were off stage left, was he pulled a trick on me. I heard that it was his birthday. It was June 16th. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'll get Danny a cake or something. I did something like that. And I came back. He said, oh, it's not my birthday. I was like, no, I felt like such an idiot. And he kept this up all afternoon. Gee, that was so nice of you. It's not my birthday. You know, and by the end of it, he was like, okay, it's my birthday. I was like, you should. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful. And I had known Amy from Cabaret and for several years before that. And it was, that was so much fun to work with. I don't think we've ever worked together since, have we, Amy? I don't think we have.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Seems like we have.
I'm old,
But,
I don't remember.
yeah, it was a thrill. And now I'm just teaching stand-up comedy. And I was supposed to be doing Sarah Silverman's The Bedwetter at the Atlantic last March, but that's been postponed to this coming March, God willing. So, and that's all I have to say.
Michelle, were you raising your hand to say something?
No, I was just crossing my fingers that we will be back in March.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All crossed some
Let's
fingers.
hope. Let's hope.
Yeah,
Jim Hindman, I'm glad you
Hello,
were able
sir.
to
How you
get to us.
doing? Oh my gosh, so much love. That's what I remember most, is falling in love with every single person. And with, and I really do have that picture of that Stephen Sondheim and George Furth gave us. I have it in my husband framed it for my birthday or something. And we have it hanging up. And a couple of the biggest things I remember, Susan, I just love you. And we are actually, I'm not sure where you are now, but we actually live next door to each other in New York and didn't know it for years. Right? I live right around the corner from you. And one of my biggest memories is that same run through with Stephen Sondheim and how nice he was at the notes or through Susan. But one of the biggest things for me, I remember Rick and Danny and I trying not to laugh. I remember, because he's not on here, the guy that played the little boy, we used to drive Rick Crom crazy because he would always pee on the toilet seat. So Danny and I would take water and put it on the toilet seat so that Rick would say, he did it again. And I told him. And one of my favorite memory from the show is that when I did my bit about the telephone answering machine and Carol Burnett laughed. And I was like, I can die. Carol Burnett laughed at me and said something nice after the show. And mostly now I've been doing, the last Broadway show I did was Mary Poppins, which is a while ago now, but I mostly do television and movie stuff, and I'm writing. And the last thing I had off Broadway was Popcorn Falls that Adam Heller starred in.
Was awesome. You guys were great. Jim wrote, it was great, and Adam was terrific. Just terrific.
Yes. Love him.
Thank you for casting
Love you all. Yeah.
And by the way, that guy who peed on the seat is probably a dad now. Where is he?
I know.
Who is that? He's probably got his own kid that he's worrying about peeing on the seat.
He's probably 45. But...
Probably. I remember he farted a lot too.
Yeah.
Ask Morgan, can we hear from you?
Cass, you're going to have to, there you go, babe.
I just unmuted myself. Hey, everybody. It's so great to see you. Very well. Hey, I'm sitting up in my guest room / office / exercise room in my house in Vermont, where I've been since the end of February. Actually, I was supposed to go, the last thing I was supposed to do was a new Aaron's Flaherty piece down at Sarasota at the, what's the name of that theater? I can't.
The
Oslo.
Oslo.
And then one thing, you know, I had a slight physical problem, so I wasn't sure if I was going to go. And then this all happened. So here's where I've been. Let's see. This show, this was the first time I ever met Susan. And I remember my audition vividly with you, Susan. And I remember I was doing a show in Baltimore and took the train in for the day. And it was one of the most fun and relaxing and joyful auditions I'd ever had, where everybody was nice and everybody laughed, and it made me feel so comfortable. Let's see, I remember that Jimmy Heineman and I had a large chunk of time off stage during the show, right, Jimmy? And you had just started writing, and so you would say, hey, what are you doing? I'd say, well, I'm just hanging out here. Can I read you something? And then he would read me, you know, and I would bring in stuff and say, well, you know, I've actually been working on a little something too. So we used our time while we were not on stage to kind of nurture each other as writers. And there was something about it that was so moving to me, that we were doing this beautiful piece with all these wonderful people with this great writing, and that we were like secretly, you know, sticking our toes in the water too. It was really wonderful. I remember being moved to tears every single night, every single show, by the depth of the performances and the ideas in it, and being so grateful that I was part of it. And that's all I got. It was amazing to see those pictures and to see myself with red hair. That's been a long time.
And dancing with me, Cass, we danced together.
That's true. That was Phil and Rick. We sat at tables together. And Anne, I got to be your mother. I got to do all sorts of fun little bits.
That's right. We were Mr. and Mrs. Spencer, right? Weren't we? Yes.
You guys were brilliant.
Well,
Now, last but not least,
I wonder.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, do you guys remember how Susan, like, you know, after half hour or like, you know, sort of before performances, would send us Post-it notes on our mirrors? Do you remember?
They were 3x5 cards. You're close.
Yes. Okay. Susan, you sent me one of the funniest.
And it was a half hour.
I will never forget. It was the funniest note I ever got in my life. I realized after the fact that you were sending me a note saying that during Not a Day Goes By to be up left, stage right. But the note read with your handwriting, be a bitch, stage left. It was be up left, stage right, but it was be a bitch, stage left is how it read. You guys were in the dressing room. You guys remember this. Amy, Michelle, you remember.
You have it framed somewhere?
I just remember going, I know that's not what she's telling me. She's not telling me to be a bitch, stage right.
Yeah.
She's really telling me
that.
to be
Maybe I was.
Stage.
So I'm sure it was my terrible handwriting. Which we try to write these notes during a performance, of course, so that I myself could.
So now,
it was probably one of the best notes I've ever gotten, the best director note I've ever gotten in my entire life. I treasure that. I adore you.
not last, but definitely not least, Sally Jules, who we've stayed vaguely in touch over the years, but she was my assistant on this show. But tell your story, Sally, about your history with the York prior to Merrily, and where you're talking to us from, and what's happened in your life, and all of that.
So I am talking to you from Brooklyn, so not too far away. And I started with the York as an intern distance from Calcutta, and I was living with Molly Gross at the time. And then I just stayed on and ended up assisting Jimmy on sets. And I did pretty much every department on Merrily. I ran the spotlight, I helped on costumes, I helped on the set, I helped backstage, I helped usher, which was amazing because I got to meet so many actors that would come in and want to be seated, and it was so wonderful. So just great memories, and really I got to be part of everything on this play, so it's just so nice to see everybody again.
Well, you're having the photograph of the model just threw me, because I hadn't seen that in years, and the model doesn't exist anymore, but you had a major hand in building it, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So I was in grad school at the time studying set design, so that was a huge thing for me to be able to work with you and get to build the model. Yeah.
Well, it was definitely a huge thing for me. Now you have a family?
I do, yes, and my son is now an actor. So he's
Really?
14, yes.
Wow. Everyone feel free to jump in. Now it's probably time to, let's talk to Charles Wright again. Give us a little perspective on this, and then we'll talk about the recording, memories of that experience. But Charles, spend a little time, if you would, about this and how it fits into the York history and all of that.
Well, it occurred right in the middle of the York's 50-year history. So, it was part of, as I said, part of the 25th anniversary celebration. And it really solidified the York's reputation for doing first New York City revivals, not only of Mr. Sondheim's work, but of other, particularly musicals that hadn't been seen in New York since their first appearances. Shows like The Grass Harp, and very early on, She Loves Me. I don't think it had been done before. Jim, is that right?
That's
I think that was the first New York City. Right. But that would be a completely different level of production. What were you going to say, the Golden Apple?
The Golden Apple was in that lineup of shows. But there are a lot, but this is the one that, Pacific Overtures was the first New York revival.
And Sweeney Todd.
And Company,
Yes.
Susan directed. Had it been revived in New York?
No, not till we did it.
Yeah, so there were a number of his shows that we did as first New York revivals.
Yeah, and of course Sweeney was the one that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And both Sweeney Todd and Pacific Overtures moved to commercial engagements.
Right.
Yes.
I'd like to pose a question. One thing that has been distinctive about the York through the years is the repeat engagements of artists. I wonder who from this cast has appeared in multiple York shows.
Yeah. It's still time.
I performed. I was the. I performed in the musicals in Mufti version of Regina.
Mark Blitzstein. Yes.
I don't know. It was astonishing. It was riveting, and I was really happy.
And in 5 days.
To be a part of it. I love I love the York's commitment. In 5 days, yeah, they needed a matinee Regina, but honestly, I was so riveted by the production, by the York's commitment to bringing a piece like that back to prominence. It was riveting to me. I was honored to be a part of it.
Now, leading up to tonight, Charles, I found two articles in the New York Times a week apart. In the on stage column they used to have on Fridays announcing goings on in the theater world. And one week it talked about how the production of Merrily was going to open at the Minetta Lane Theater downtown. And then a week later they said, no, there's been a change. It's going to open as expected at the York Theater. Did you have those articles in your collection of stuff?
I did. I did, and it's very interesting. As you will all probably remember, the co-producer of the show with the York was the One World Arts Foundation, Scott McLucas, and Mitchell Maxwell, who owned the Minetta Lane, was going to produce it was going to open, the show was going to open at the Minetta Lane so that Maxwell could take over the run after 4 weeks and turn it into a commercial engagement.
Susan, do you have?
I have a vague memory of that, but I don't know what.
Apparently, it's the negotiations broke down over the financial the back end, the payments to the rights holders for ancillary rights for a subsequent move, for touring rights, etc.
Okay, that okay, maybe. I don't think they had the money.
You think Maxwell didn't have the money?
I had it all designed for the Minetta Lane. I have a sketch of it, but I couldn't find it for tonight.
Okay, well, whatever. Aren't we fortunate? We're very fortunate.
Yes, it worked out
up at York.
perfectly. It worked out perfectly.
Well, we also had the right people holding us in their arms, and you know, and that makes a big difference. One of the reasons I love working at York is that people are so supportive, and I always find that they hire you and then they trust you, and there's an enormous amount of trust when I work there, and under Janet and under Jim, that you know, I mean, Janet Walker is really responsible for my career on Broadway. And she did that because she had faith, and she did something that I don't think anyone else would have done at that time in giving me that show to do. And, but she did that with everybody. Everybody was very important to her. Everybody who works very important. And she constantly, and Jim, you as well, everybody there constantly were supportive. And whenever there was anything to say or any notes to give, they were always done with love. And there was, I think it's, I don't think I ever had one moment in doing any of these shows at York where there was altercation. I don't have any memory of that ever at York. I always know that if there were problems or difference of opinion, they were just worked out, or it was always, okay, Susan, we'll try to do this for you. I use that all the time as an example of, you know, just say you'll try. Don't say no. Say, okay, let's try to do it. We'll try to make it work. Okay. And I always felt that at York. I always was very comfortable there, even when I only got a sack of tokens. Remember when you used to give us a sack of tokens? Do you remember that? Yeah. Well, this is before money changed hands. We actually got a sack of tokens. And I was thrilled to get.
I think Molly Gross
Uh-huh.
started that.
Yeah, gross. I got a little plastic bag full of tokens as my weekly salary, and I was thrilled. So
all of that kind of point of view, the vibe that you talk about really came from Janet and Molly. And Molly's still on our board, our secretary for many years, and we've tried to continue that same feeling as we've continued forward. We have two questions that have come in. I would like to share them, and then we'll get to the recording. I don't know who asked these, but there were revisions of the book/show, including the arena production in DC. What went into deciding what revisions were kept and which were not? Were there any revisions you wish you could have kept?
I think we started with the Los Angeles, which was a James Lapine production. I think, and James was very, very helpful to me. He actually sent me, when he heard I was doing this, so generous, sent me a recording of that production and said, you should listen to this. It will be helpful to you, and it was. And so I started with that, and George had definite ideas. Steve had definite ideas. I had some ideas, but they were very collaborative. They wanted to hear what I had to say. And I think most of the work was done in clarifying the sequencing so that, and this was in the transitions, so that it was clearer when one scene ended why we were going back in time to a place. And George did that work very meticulously to clarify that. So it didn't seem at all haphazard. It seemed, well, yeah, we're going back to this spot because of how the scene before it ended. And that was the most work we did. I can't tell you really how many changes exactly were made. You know, there were some significant ones. You know, the show has gone through so many revisions from the Broadway production that, you know, I don't know finally what we ended up with, but you know, where that ended up with proportionally changes. But I do know that a lot of hours were spent talking about that, and I was privileged to be included in that, and I was thrilled actually to be included in that, though it was terrifying at times to say, okay, so what do you think, Susan? And I was like, well, okay. And those were the times when George would say, don't, you know, you're, anyway. But he was, in the end, he was lovely, and he was very grateful. And I think he desperately wanted this show to work, and as did Steve. It does have, I mean, it's about art, it's about us. You know, the show's about us. Yeah. And I still, to this day, when I hear certain chords, I start to cry. I hear the chords into Our Time, and I'm gone. Those chords just send me, because they're so impactful emotionally. You know exactly where you are. And I do remember one rehearsal where in the final Our Time, Malcolm, you put your hand on Adam's shoulder. I don't think I directed it, it just happened at that moment. You put your hand on your shoulder, and it was such an incredible moment, and so emotional. And Steve turned to me and said, that's brilliant. And I went, thank you, though I didn't do it. It was totally an actor choice. But again, it was just so vulnerable. That's what it was. It's just a vulnerable moment when you did that. It was like, don't ever leave me, the way you reached out and touched him that way and sort of held his shoulder. So there were many moments like that throughout this show. It evokes those kind of feelings, you know.
Susan, I have one for you in return. So because of the album, when we say, I saw My Fair Lady, I sort of enjoyed it. You suggested I make it like, I actually kind of liked it. And 1,000 people have said to me, like, that was the greatest version of that line. And I'm like, that was Susan. That if I sort of enjoyed it. James froze up.
James is frozen. Quick, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about the album.
Yeah.
We have another applause.
This is Schulman.
What?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Well, we have two more pictures to show. Yes, great. I remember the show had been directed. So the audience didn't get a chance to applaud after Not a Day's voice me.
You don't get that. The question was
Was it-
stifling the applause after Not a Day Goes By, going right into the dialogue. Somebody asked how that choice was made or if you felt that worked out. Sorry, you were off a little, James.
I know what Steve wanted, so we try to make it work. It's what the writers wanted, and I think it was correct. It's hard to control because obviously the audience wants to do that, but the writers both really wanted to go right into the next moment, let the song propel you right into the next moment.
So now let's talk about the recording experience. And who wants to start off? Michael, would that be you?
Yeah, you have to start with Michael Rafter. Yep.
I don't know if I know where. Somebody help me with the dates. Like, when was the run at the York? Did we finish in June? When did we? Anybody the dates? Was it April, May, June?
No, it was May to July.
We finished in July.
Yes, early July.
Right, and then there was a decision to re-record it, but instead of, and again, does anybody have a playbill? Because I remember 3 of the 4 of us back there under that stair, stage right, in the band. I remember me on piano, and we had Steve Tyler on keyboard and Glenn Ryan on drums. Bass, I don't even remember if we had a bassist. Was it? Anyway.
Joe has a playbill.
Who did?
Joe does.
Chris Sauer.
Oh, okay. They decided to record it September 22nd around, or somewhere like 3rd week of September. But meanwhile, everybody had kind of scattered. We all scattered to the 4 winds. So suddenly we had to put it together with new Jonathan Tunick orchestrations because they wanted, again, it was 16 or 17 pieces, something in that area. Yeah. And totally new charts that had never been read down. Now, no matter how great your copyist is, there are always going to be mistakes. So that takes up some time. So you get 1 day to record this. And they gave me one rehearsal session to kind of brush everybody up on this incredible score that was just a bear. Let me just set the stage that way. So it was pressured. Again, you have 1 day to record it. It had been at least, 2 months since we had performed it together. Now with new orchestrations, I had redone a lot of the arrangements for the little 4-piece band that now had to be transferred into that larger orchestration. Again, the only thing, one of the big memories was at the end of the night, we were running behind, and so we had to let the orchestra go, which thankfully we had gotten everything down except I hadn't played it in a couple months. I thought the pianist that they had hired for the session was going to play it. It got into overtime, so I ended up.
Someone's unmuted.
Yeah, someone has. Yeah.
What are some other memories that you all have?
Joe, do you have things to add? Or Susan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know because Jonathan was there, and Jonathan had not really had anything to do with our production. There was often times when I know Michael, would have to say, well, when we did it, this is what happened. Or there's also discussion, remember, about recording things straight through. We wanted to record a number straight through. We also wanted Malcolm to play the piano, which he did on the recording, which was all, kind of new ground. But usually you don't record a very complex number like the opening straight through. You usually do it in sections. And I was sort of, starry-eyed and insistent that we could do it. And, Steve and Jonathan said, all right, sure. And we did it. And you guys were amazing that after all that time, you were able to hold that number together. Excuse me, my cat has just decided she wants to be in the Zoom.
Oh, please.
She's come on to me. Okay, I'll just give you a quickie. Say hello, Rose. Hello. She's walking around. Okay.
Hi, Rose.
So that was, I remembered, Michael, that there were moments of that kind of discussion because Jonathan was used to it being a different way, right? And there were some lyric changes that had been made as well.
Yeah,
So,
getting
yeah.
songs, getting into a moment.
Yeah.
We would read it down, and it wasn't. And then Stephen would be like, "I don't remember it that way," and that's we'd start the discussion.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Draft the cat. Now to Michael, do you have memories of making the recording?
No, I wasn't in the studio for the recording.
Yeah, I wasn't there. Where was it recorded?
At Carol, right? Weren't we at Carol, Michael?
I think Clinton. It's no longer in business on 8th Avenue.
It was Clinton. Okay.
We rehearsed on 72nd Street. We put it back together on like a Sunday night at 72nd Street.
Right, the rehearsal. Yeah.
We have a couple of other images to share with people that will jog some memories. Can we see those? These are courtesy of Amy. Amy, do you want to talk about them?
Just that wonderful patch that Susan had made. It was just incredible. And then, the usual silliness with George and Stephen, giving everybody the same photograph, giving everybody this comb, because you've got a wonderful part. It was like having Daddy, in the audience, every night. It was, and Daddy at rehearsal, and then, Daddy doing things that he shouldn't be doing. But it was like, it was like having Dad.
Yep.
It was amazing. It was real. I mean, he really, because he was the father of the whole thing. So you really felt like I think a lot of us all felt like we were just his kids, and we just do anything he wanted us to do.
And yeah, that was.
I think he felt that way, Amy. He really did.
Yeah. I just remember when we were doing that recording, there was so much time had passed, and I'd come to LA. I'd worked on a movie, and in that movie I was screaming the entire time. Am I muted? Am I there?
No,
I was screaming, and then to get called back, say, "Oh, now we're going to do the recording," and then I flew back to New York, and I thought, "This is it. I'm never going to get through this." And then to have Jonathan Tunick there and to say that he's intimidating is like, that's setting the bar real low. And then and he's the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. He said to me, "I've never heard anyone sing the correct notes in Charlie. You're the only one who's ever sang the correct notes and recorded it." And then I think after he said that, I forgot how the song went. Terrified, completely, utterly terrified. To go from 4 people to what do we have, like 20 something pieces there, Michael?
It was amazing.
17, I think.
17.
17.
That was a huge difference. Huge.
Yes, it was.
Adam and Amy and I stayed like to 3 in the morning or something, right? I mean, we were there really late. Yeah. Because I remember begging if I could sing the first chorus of Our Time Again. And even Steve was like, it's fine. And then you played it back and I was a little under. And I remember after winning the argument, then I was so tired. It's our time.
Yeah.
Sally, you're saying something?
I was curious.
I remember that Sally Jules is saying, I remember
the Lincoln Center recording, the
Sally.
night that they came to record the show. And everybody was very nervous, and I had to run the spotlight that night. And so I had to be really careful to not make any mistakes. So we were all nervous, top to bottom.
Oh, that's right. Lincoln Center taped the show, right?
Yes.
We're in Lincoln Center. Yeah. We're in the archives.
You can see it. I don't know what the restrictions are on it.
I think those are over now. Yeah, I think you can just if you've been in the cast, you can definitely go and see it.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that CD exists.
The number of people who have said it's one of their favorite recordings ever, and certainly of this show, is pretty amazing. Adam, you started to say something?
Malcolm, you started talking about your arrest, and I don't recall that. So could you fill us in?
I was doing Two Gentlemen of Verona in the park in the Shakespeare Festival, and one of our days off, I rode my bike through Washington Square, and Giuliani had a thing called quality of life crimes, which was really bogus. So they gave me a citation, and I just threw it into a stack of bills and went to rehearsals every day because I was actually doing Merrily and rehearsing the Shakespeare in the Park during the daytime. And one day I came home and my neighbor said, the cops are looking for you. There's a warrant for your arrest. So I had to go. This is a much better story to this involving Cameron Manheim, but I'll tell you all later. But the Times wrote an op-ed piece about it, a satirical piece, because it was so ludicrous. But it came out the week before the album. So when we came into the recording studio that day, Steve said, "Come here, I got to talk to you." And I was like, "Yes, Mr. Sondheim." I thought he was going to give me the secrets to out. And he's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "What really happened?" And I was like, "I was riding my bike in Washington Square." And he goes, "No, what were you really up to?" Because he knew. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I think we're approaching the time to close things off. Charles, do you have a statement of some kind to help ease the pain?
Well, I don't know whether I can ease the pain or not, but this has been a very exciting evening hearing the memories and getting to relive your experiences vicariously. Congratulations to all.
Thank you. It's great to see everybody.
Can I summon the presence of Michael Lichtenfeld too, our choreographer Michael Lichtenfeld, who's not with us tonight, who did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
He did do brilliant.
Absolutely
And you know, I would say that the Michaels, I always would say one was the right part of my brain and one was the left part of my brain when we did this show. And, you know, so I'm forever grateful to you both.
Thank you all so much for being a part of this. Great to revisit things. Thank you all in the audience for joining us. I'd like to thank the entire York staff who all in one way or another made this happen, including Joseph Hayward, and pushing buttons behind the scenes and putting the cast together, Austin Tracy, and our new Director of Development, Alana Graber. If you enjoyed this, please do consider sending a donation to help keep these programs going. We hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. Good night and much love to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Great to see you guys. Thank you for a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good to see you all.
Love
Stay-
to everybody.
Stay safe, everyone. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Let's not wait 26 years for another reunion.
Have you
Thank
heard
you
about the
to York
movie?
Theater. What?
You guys heard about the movie?
Yes.
You know what? I have to say,
Yes.
guess what? We're all still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, Malcolm. That's going to be something.
Yeah.
12 years a movie.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Ben Platt and the girl, Danny.
Freddie, Beanie.
Beanie, yeah.
Beanie.
Yeah, that'll be something. Wow.
Can't wait.
I
Bye,
love-
guys.
You have a long time to wait.
Well,
Christine, thanks again.
Good
Yeah,
night.
thank you.
You
Good to see
guys.
you all. Love
Good
to
night, everybody.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you, York
So
Theater.
good to see you.
Thanks for
So good
having
to
us.
see you. All right,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
thank
I'm not
you.
going to be last.
Thanks, Sally.
Sorry, I'm slow. Bye.
And thank you, Jim,